play. Welcome to Terrantia. So we are in control of our character here, and I'm just going to run through the whole tutorial and just basically explain every part. So you can zoom in and out, obviously, and control will toggle auto cam on and off. So auto cam means that when you go to the edges of the screen, it'll automatically sort of move the camera a bit. So if you're fighting someone that's over here, it will just sort of adjust for you. If you don't like that, you just hit control and it's gone. Yeah, that's the whole section there. Let's move to the next one. So by default, you always face the cursor. So wherever you're looking with the cursor is where your character will turn towards, which is nice. But in sprint mode, you don't. So you can toggle this off basically by holding shift. So if I hold shift, I go to sprint mode, and that is basically WASD movement without the cursor influencing it. You do still kind of look at your cursor though, but that's only a visual thing. And you can do this during combat as well. So if I'm just standing still and I hold shift, I won't turn anymore, and now I can, you know, attack with that mode enabled. I'll explain attacking and these kind of things in the next section. And then the only other thing here is that when your cursor is far away from you, you kind of look upward, and when your cursor is close to you, you look down. So that allows you to aim for legs or for heads, etc. A pretty important but difficult feature to master, but you can definitely aim at specific parts of the body, and that's a big mechanic in the game. Hitting someone in the leg when they don't have armor there is sometimes extremely important. You know, if they have a big helmet but no leg armor, that's where you should be hitting. All right, basic attacking. So this is a bit inspired, well, quite heavily inspired by Mount & Blade, which is my favorite game of all time. And I used to mod it. That's how I began with game development. So I made this game essentially with the idea of what if I do like a top-down Mount & Blade style combat, and could that fix the camera issues? So in Mount & Blade, if you attack left and right, the camera moves along with your attack, and so it gets really hard to look at. When you're playing, it's okay, but yeah, it's a bit disorienting. So I tried to detach the camera from the mechanics of the game, or from the attacking mechanic. And that's how this whole game started, basically. Of course, it evolved and it became its own thing, but that's sort of the original beginning point, as a bit of a backstory, I guess. And so, yeah, you can click and drag in any direction, basically, relative to your character to do an attack in that direction. So if I click here and then I drag to the left, I'll do an attack from the left. So it's like pulling my arm almost, right? And then when I release this, I'll strike. So it's you pull the arm and then release to strike. There are for most weapons, there are 8 attack directions. So I can go uppercut if I go up to the corner. If I go left, I'll do like a side swipe, and then an underhanded slash, mostly for like legs and stuff. If I go backward a little bit, and then the same 3 on the other side. And then if I just click, I'll do a stab. And if I double click, I'll do an overhead slash. So you can do 8 different attacks with both swords and maces and axes and stuff like that, one-handed weapons, with two-handed weapons as well. With pole arms, you can do 8, but the left ones are like backhanded attacks. I'll show that later. And then spears have 3 attacks. They have 3 types of stabs, and that's it. One more thing you can do here is you can hold Alt to make sure that you do have a stab. So just like clicking and not moving the mouse can be a bit tricky sometimes. So you can hold Alt for that as well to guarantee a stab. And that way we can fight. There's more to it, but I'll explain that as we get to those points. Those are the basics. And now I can smash this. Boom. All right. Basic blocking. All right, so I can click and hold right mouse button to block. So I'm going to grab a shield here. And then if I just hold right mouse button, I basically move the shield in front of me in this like pose. And then if I do a strike, for example, without lifting the right mouse button, I'll go right back to blocking with my shield up. Shields are basically a physical weapon, or a weapon, I mean an item, an object The whole game is physics based, so my shield will still block if I don't hold right mouse button. It's just that, yeah, now that it's in front of me, it's a bit more reliable. But one thing you could do, for example, if you'll notice, some of the animations are quite logical. So like a stab will also lift the shield, right? In the animation of stabbing, you also lift the shield. So this is essentially as effective as blocking would be, right? So in this case, you can just essentially hold a stab. That way you have an attack ready, etc., etc. So they are just objects, and where you place the object is what matters, where you put the shield. There we go. And then if you don't have a shield, you essentially can do a directional block in the exact same way that you do attacks. So this is very difficult, and a lot of people are commenting feedback that it's too hard right now. So I'm going to revise the system a bit, make it a bit more reliable. This is definitely super hard. Probably the hardest part of the mechanics right now is blocking effectively. But the general idea will stay the same. It will just probably be simpler in the final product. And then you can target characters to assist you a bit with aiming. So when you press tab, you'll grab the closest guy to you. And when you hit tab again, you'll go to the second closest and then alternate between the two. Control while you're targeting D-targets. And then you can also cycle between all with Z. So that if you want to target someone really far away, you can do that too. Yeah, and then what's happening when I'm targeting is I'm automatically facing the enemy. And a few systems are different while targeting. So for example, shield blocking. Now that I'm targeted, I can actually alter the shield position with my mouse. Like this. So if an attack's coming from the left or the right, I have control to block it. And then my torso also moves along with my aim now that I'm targeted. So if I, for example, attack this way and then I swing my torso along with it, I'll attack much faster and do more damage. I'll get to that a little bit farther in the tutorial as well. You can press C to taunt and cheer, which affects the audience, and they might throw weapons in the arena and stuff like that. So stamina is blue, and that's a very important feature of the game. A lot of stuff has to do with stamina management. So basically not wasting your stamina and letting it regen, taking your time and doing more of a dance than just brutally smashing typically works better in this game. All right, and then yeah, your max stamina goes down as you take damage in the game. So essentially when you're starting to get like in bad shape, it really starts to compound and you start being able to, or not being able to fight as effective. So losing health is a really big deal basically. Not just because you're almost gonna die, but because you basically stop being able to fight properly because you're just messed up. Skills such as attack and movement speed and throwing and all the skills, basically there's a whole bunch, they improve as you perform the action. So it's quite simple. If I spend a bunch of time just moving and running and stuff, I'll get better at that stuff. And then there's also a little sort of encyclopedia thing in the game that we can check out, although that needs updating. But I'm just going to explain this stuff verbally, so we don't really need to go there. Advanced defending. All right, so when I'm targeted and then I hit right mouse button without moving, I will automatically grab the attack that's incoming. So if I time it right, I should be able to block these. I just have to click right mouse button when the attack is launched. And then it's still quite hard sometimes. It's not super reliable, but at least it helps a bit. Especially stabbing, blocking a stab is really, really hard. But you get the general idea. You can also kick and shield bash. So with pressing F with a shield is a shield bash, knockback, doesn't do damage, but it does damage your shield quite a bit, and they can break. Without, it's like a weaker version, a kick, and it takes quite a bit of stamina as well. Alright, then advanced attacking. So holding an attack a little bit until it's like fully charged, so to speak, until I'm fully pulled back, is going to do way more damage than a quick click. So if I just quickly click and drag, you can see the animation doesn't fully play, so to speak. It's like a super quick attack. That's nice, of course, but it doesn't do as much damage nearly. So if you want to really hit hard, you got to go all the way and then boom. You can feint attacks. If I just sort of ditch the shield, you can feint by essentially doing any other attack before it sort of launches. So that way I can sort of trick out the AI, or maybe later actual other people, who knows. And you can feint around like that. So at any point, basically, you can do any input, and it will always accept your input. That's one of the fundamentals of this game that I really wanted to put in there. You can do anything at the same time, and it will never sort of take control away from you. So if I, except for things like kicking, you're kind of locked in there. That's the only thing. But I can do essentially any attacks at any time, even when I'm halfway through an attack. I can start blocking and doing other stuff, etc., etc. Right, and then the other thing is what I mentioned before, is if you're targeted, you can essentially control your torso. So if I do an attack, I'll do it in slow motion, and then I follow my mouse like this across the strike to move my torso along with the strike. I'll do a much faster hit, basically. And that's of course for advanced attacking. Not everyone should be doing this. It just makes you a little bit more, gives you a bit more DPS, let's say. If you're not targeted as well, you can make this even more impactful, because you can turn your whole body into it. But of course then you have to not target, which advanced players typically don't like to target, and that's kind of by design as well. Targeting is more for learning the game. Later, you probably shouldn't target anymore. You can dash by hitting space in a direction or double tapping. So that's nice too, because again, you can combine this with all the attacks. I can dash into an attack, for example, to add speed, or mostly use it for defense and just hopping away when a strike is incoming. All right, and then we have dropping, throwing, and picking up. So with E, I can drop my, let's call it right hand, and with Q in my case, with a QWERTY keyboard, I can drop my offhand. And once I have, my two hands free, I can grab a two-handed weapon, for example, and then it automatically moves to the right attack patterns. I can again stab, do an overhead, etc. And what's nice is I can also throw. So the throwing mechanic is a bit unique. It's a bit unusual. A lot of people struggle with it because it's really hard, but I like it that way. So basically what you're doing to throw is you just let go of your weapon by dropping it, but you do that during an attack, and then the weapon will just keep going, and it will become basically lethal if you do it right. So it's really hard to time. It's basically, I'll do an attack like this, and then just let go at the peak, and that will be a throw. So I can try this a couple more times. The easiest one is an overhead strike. So this one, because that's how you would throw probably, right? So if I time that right, I'll just do a nice throw in front of me. And then there's a throwing skill in the game as well. Your character has a throwing skill, which is basically an assist. So the more throwing skill you have, the more reliably it will sort of be launched in front of you. Yeah, and then there's also destructible weapons and stuff, like these ones, which gives you a lot of fame bonus. So the audience really loves that when you break a vase onto an enemy's head, for example. That's the general gist of this stuff. You can pick up spears, and they act as pole arms. But then if you have a shield, they become actual spears. So this is a normal spear setup here. I can stab, I can do a slightly wider stab and kind of curve it around if I want. And then I can double click to do like an overhead stab like this, which also turns into a throw quite nicely. Once I'm done with the tutorial, by the way, I'm going to look at questions, so please feel free to write your questions. I'm definitely going to answer everything I can. But I'll do the tutorial first. That's the training. You can do a little bit of throwing practice here. It's pretty hard still for me even, and it's quite unreliable. You have to really be at the right distance and get the muscle memory in and stuff. So it's pretty tough. A really reliable hit, but when you do get that really nice hit, it's kind of amazing. Especially when it's in combat, of course. So mostly you're just frantically throwing just anything that you can. Like so. We can spar a bit as well here, so let me do a quick sparring fight. There's these 4 main sort of weapon types here, And if I just hit one of these, let me... Actually, let's do like a little... This could be fun. Let's do a two-handed spar. There we go. So I'm gonna hit this guy. I hope this works. There we go. I can't die or anything, neither can he, so it's just literally fighting until you drop your weapon. And so this is nice to learn blocking, I think. This is a good one. Ooh, that should have been a hit. I'll talk a bit more about the AI and stuff as well later, but there's quite a bit of stuff that I put in the AI, so they're not just like brainless drones, if you will. They have an aggression and sort of a general idea of when they should be pulling or pushing during the fights. So sometimes they'll back off a bit. With a two-hander, actually, when I'm up against another two-hander, I like to essentially hold this pose because it's a pretty good general block. It's slow. Oh, he showed me there. So it slows you down quite a bit to block, but it's kind of worth it sometimes. I'll just kind of hang out like that, and then when I'm ready, when my stamina is back or whatever, I have infinite stamina here, so that's not really playing into it, but when I'm ready to attack again, I can then smash. Go for the legs. Almost. That was a nice leg hit. There we go. And then the head. Of course, the sparring partner is like basically taking no damage, so he's not really reacting to the hits here. No blood or anything, no physical animations. You'll see this change quite a bit once we jump into a real fight. Alright, let me drop my weapon here. He's gonna back off. Alright. So, press enter to continue to your debut match. Let's go. So once you're ready with training, you can proceed to your debut match where you will be tested. Alright. I hope this works. One thing I'm noticing is the audience is set to low for some reason. I'll try to fix that in a second, once we're done with the tutorial here. Should be a lot more audience, basically. Cheeky little throw. Not a smart move. Oh, okay, that didn't work out. But there's enough stuff in this particular arena. I don't have to worry about it. It'd be pretty embarrassing though if I lose here, so let's try to take care of this guy. So I picked up a mace here, and they're really good against shields. So you saw the effect right there. It does a tremendous amount of damage. Now that he's shieldless, he's basically screwed. So I'm gonna take care of him. Right in the head and dead. I don't want this anymore. Let's grab a gem. The spectacle is about to begin. Get ready. What does that mean? Ooh, okay. I love how I'm pretending like I didn't make this. Okay, I don't actually like this here. I need a shield. I don't see any shields. Okay, no shield for me. This is a javelin, so it's not the best for not throwing. So I'm gonna try to throw there and pick up my little weapon here. Try to fight this guy. So the AI tends to sort of form duels on their own, which is nice. That means I can focus on this guy, just fight it out. There we go. And then. Try not to hit my teammates here. I want his shield actually, so let me kill this guy by not breaking his shield. There we go. I'll grab this. Grab this guy. 4v1. I think he's gonna go down anytime. But the bloodiness generally indicates their health. It's not 100%. Because if you get sprayed on, you also get bloody. But generally speaking, the more bloody someone is, the more likely they are to die relatively soon. And if they're clean, you know that they're pretty full health, or pretty close to full health. Oh, a little stab throw. Ow. That really hurt. I'm actually in pretty bad shape here. Ooh, okay. Let me back off a bit. I'll do a couple of throws instead, because I don't want to die. Almost. He's gotta be almost dead. I always miss to the right. I have a pretty bad muscle memory on this. That was really bad. Poor display. Oh, he's dead. Okay. No. Oh, they're infighting a bit. Hey, bud, take my shield. Okay. I think we're gonna be fine. Seems like they're fighting each other a little bit there. That's a bit strange. Probably a bug. Seems like they think someone is still alive even though they're not, and they're trying to attack that person. But this guy's fleeing now. You can see he's kind of tentative. That means he's almost dead. Pretty much. They take a general assessment of how you're doing, how they're doing, and they do not want to attack if they're in bad shape. As you would if you were also in need. Victory.